voting has ended. The preliminary count is 68 to 5. We'll get the final count in a minute.
Madam President, with the passage of that motion, I would like to just recognize and thank the efforts of the Bylaws Committee over the last 2 years, the Governance Task Force. I'm not going to try to name all the members because there's a bunch of them and invariably I leave somebody out. The LMA committee chairs who helped us with the process, those who asked questions on the forums. This was truly a collaborative effort of a whole lot of people. And I certainly would be remiss if I didn't thank our corporate attorney. I know that we paid him for it, but Craig Castle was a great deal of assistance in Springfield, Illinois. So all of you all who participated, and the delegates last year who contributed some really great ideas, we really thank you for your contribution to the process. We got a much better product because of the efforts of everyone involved.
Thank you, Alan. Next item on the agenda is DM 11-55, Senator Paul of Wisconsin.
All right, DM 1155 is referred to bylaws. We came up with some wording for 1216, but the problem is this is a very complicated issue. The issue attempted to deal with is whether persons who sue USCF can serve on boards or committees and be a delegate. And a lot of people have expressed concerns with the legality. Now, it took a number of votes, and I can maybe say, giving you 7 different votes, by pointing out that the last vote from the committee was to put everything off for a year and think about it some more and get legal opinions some more. And one of the delegates here has pointed out to me, I believe one from Oklahoma, that there may be yet another problem with 1216 because of the arbitration provision, and there was disagreement between the delegates and the executive board. So basically, the final committee vote was to delay action to 2013. 11 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 1 needs more thought. And the workshop voted 23 in favor of waiting till 2013, 2 no, 2 abstain. So my proposal on behalf of the committee and the workshop is to put this whole matter off a year, and we probably need to get some more legal advice on it.
Second.
Any discussion?
What number was that? 1216. 1216.
ADM 1216.
So the motion is to table?
The motion is to reconsider the bylaws report back to the delegates in 2013.
Harold, can you speak into the microphone?
I guess my motion is to re-refer both those things back to bylaws to report to the delegates in 2013.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Oh, abstained? Motion passes.
Harold, before you mention or talk, the final vote on motion 12, 14, and 15 was 68 in favor, 5 against.
Next item is DM 1158. Frank.
Whoa.
1158. Frank Camarada.
This is under old business. That doesn't have a separate ADM at this time. It's ADM 1158. It's delegates call above the new business bar on page 19. We have not yet completed our evaluation of this motion, so I am deferring it back to rules in the executive board for consideration and reporting on it in 2013. So refer back to the rules and the executive board until 2013.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 2. Any abstentions? Motion passes to refer. Next on the agenda is new business. Yes. Members recommended ADM 12-16. Guy? A, 12-16A.
These are motions from the membership meeting that go to the head of the new business on the agenda. There are 3 of them. And a 4th one that we added that was not from the membership meeting, but yes, we added a 4th one after that.
All right. What I wanted to do, now that the Board of Delegates is no longer the Board of Directors. Not true.
Not yet.
Okay. Come January 1st, when, right after all your current appointments are up as a delegate, the new delegates are going to come in and they are appointed by the state. The states are going to submit a list. Under the old system, there had to be a written acknowledgement, well, either an emailed acknowledgement or a written acknowledgement that you knew you were a delegate and a director of this organization. You are no longer a director, or you will no longer be a director of this. Gerald, did you have something? Intend to serve. Yes, well, even though the signs sometimes don't intend to serve. But that's a different matter. I would like to remove the requirement to send in those email acknowledgments. This has been a major burden for the office. State organizations have frequently, or sometimes have sent in lists and then just waited and waited and waited for the people on that list to send in their acknowledgments. I feel this requirement is no longer necessary. And Harold, since I grabbed the wrong sheet, oh, there we are. Article 5, Section 4. I would like to delete the last 2 paragraphs of the 3 paragraphs there. All delegates and alternate delegates appointed by state affiliates shall submit a written statement to USCF acknowledging their acceptance. And acceptance must be included by the state chapter. I think this is burdening the office. In theory, this is supposed to be done by November. Admittedly, some states don't select their delegates until February or March. But sometimes those lists come in and it just takes forever to get those acknowledgments. The office sends out some emails. New Jersey is one of those that was a little remiss. Since you're up there, I had to threaten them with dire consequences if they did not send in their acknowledgments. And they did do that. What's that?
I wasn't in charge of that.
Actually, I think you were one of those who did send them in. There was many of the rest of them that needed to have their butts kicked.
I just have a question for you. I'm not opposed to this, but when that requirement was put in, I thought there was some sort of legal issue because of the Poldar mess that required that people acknowledge that, that they were delegates.
That they were delegates and that they were directors. We have now removed the legal problem of being a director from this body.
That means that removes the legal problem.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Well, so I would like to give the office and myself a little less work and make it much easier for the state organizations to just do it the old way, send in the list. We wouldn't have so many blanks on the list of delegates if we have looked at the list. Some states have nothing. They don't attend anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But the list has been rather sparse due to the requirement of the acknowledgements.
I just want to add, and maybe the guy said it, it was discussed in 2 workshops, states and bylaws. States was very strongly in favor. I don't have the exact vote.
14 to 3.
14 to 3. The vote in bylaws was 23 in favor, 5 opposed, 1 abstained.
The membership meeting also passed this resolution. There were 3 dissenting votes. I don't have an affirmative number, but there was approximately 30 members or so present at that meeting.
I will note this is a bylaws change that wasn't on the advance agenda. It needs 2/3 to pass. And if we get that, the president should know that, so it's in the minutes.
I'd be interested in what's remaining after you take out the last 2 paragraphs.
Fine. I will read it. State chapters shall designate the initial delegates and alternate delegates for their states as provided for in Article 5, Section 2 and 3, directly above it. Submitting the delegates and alternate delegates in ordered lists. State chapters must designate their initial delegates and alternate delegates after the conclusion of the annual meeting, this one, by November 1st of that year or as soon thereafter as feasible. Dave knows how soon thereafter is feasible can sometimes be quite late.
Yes.
Okay. The term of each delegate shall commence on January 1st for the year for which selected and continue for 1 year and thereafter until the successor is selected and qualified. This will make it much easier to make a successor selected and qualified also. That was a comment. That last sentence was a comment. It's not in the bylaws. Okay. Okay?
I'd like to make a comment. I think it is a good idea that the delegates officially acknowledge their appointment. I think it's a matter of training them. In the years past, whoever got nominated sometimes didn't even know they got nominated. And I think if we continue with this, that eventually they will be trained to make sure that they acknowledge their
I will point out
participation.
I will point out that part of the problem was due to the SOMOV, where names were put forward and popular people were recognized. They were made delegates, even though they had no intention of ever serving. The state chapter, in this case, can put forward the names, preferably picking out people who will actually show up. It was demonstrated that the general populace, the voting members, were not particularly good at selecting people who would show up. That's one of the reasons we've eliminated SOMOV and returned that power back to the state chapters.
But I think if it just makes it more clear to the state chapters that their delegates' selections have to acknowledge their appointment, that they become more clear. And I think that has been the problem.
Well, this was a state-appointed one, but we still have lots of blank spaces here. I want to eliminate those blank spaces.
I actually agree with Dwayne. I think it's very important that people who are here, choose to be here, want to be a part of the process. And it's not that somebody whose name doesn't appear on the list doesn't want to be a part of the process, but I think that the first step you need to make is by affirming your commitment to serve. And I think that it's very important to engage everybody in being involved.
I'd like to speak strongly in favor of this motion. In New York State, we've had nothing but problems trying to get our people to affirm. It's just really been a nightmare. We have to send out repeated emails. We really don't need the extra work. I mean, it's you know, everybody involved are volunteers working for NYSCA, and I mean, this is just not helpful. Now, if you're saying we want people to know they're delegates, there's a much simpler and better way. The office should simply send a letter to all the delegates and say, you have been named. The annual meeting will be at the following date and the following time. Please attend. And by the way, if you don't want to be a delegate, you can resign.
Call the question.
Second.
The question has been called. Are there any objections? Calling the question. Since this is a bylaw change not on the advance agenda, we'll need 2/3 to pass. So if it's close, I guess we'll, or Walter?
See what the vote is first. See what it looks like.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with 2/3. Next is ADM 1216B, Harold Jensen.
When we said we could vote USCF elections, you overlooked something that was drawn to my attention. This is in Article 4, Section 2, which is on page 27, which simply says any USCF member is entitled to register as a voting member, provided that any voting member must be age 16 or over as of June 30th of the election year. And the gap that we overlooked is we have something called promotional membership, some of whom are for less than a year, some of whom are for only 3 months. So I'm proposing adding wording after any USCF member is entitled to register as a voting member, except those with promotional memberships of less than 1 year. The workshop endorsed this to 23 to 1-to-1, and the members' meeting also endorsed it. Again, I don't think any of us ever intended that these promotional members would have a vote to the executive board, which is something we overlooked earlier.
If you remember when this issue came up a year ago in Orlando, or a related issue to this, the question of promotional memberships and the 3-month trial membership, at the time it was said that the 3-month trial membership would be done as a promotional membership with the possibility of codifying the bylaws at a later time. However, that's not on the agenda this year, but should it ever be on the agenda, then we would have a conflict. I would suggest we strike the word promotional.
Harold, do you accept that request?
That's intended as a friendly amendment, right?
If you accept it, it's friendly, otherwise I'll make it hard.
All right, I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
So when people join for 1 year for $19.72, they're entitled to vote? Yes, so I think that's not a good deal. Personally. Well, I understand that. So I know we just struck promotional out of here, but I would rather see this almost be promotional memberships of 1 year or less than to have just memberships, any membership of 1 year. Than to allow, I mean, it's all fine and good that we're having these promotional memberships of 1 year now. We're not talking 3-month memberships anymore, right?
We're talking about memberships of less than 1 year.
I understand that, and I don't think, yeah, I just don't think, I think that it's a mistake to allow people to pay $19.72 at the end of the vote.
Well, they can actually pay less than that and vote. They can buy it under a different membership class.
They should vote you.
I am sympathetic with your argument, however, that's not the issue currently on the floor. I think we might want to get together and discuss that other issue at a later point in time. My understanding of the delegates is what I would prefer to pass won't pass. So I think this is a reasonable compromise. I don't think there was any intention for somebody who only become as a member for 3 months to be able to vote in our organization, and that's basically what we're saying at this point.
Tony?
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you, but I think what we need to do is to get more people to vote. And in 1975, or $100 for a year, anybody paying for a year should be allowed to vote.
Call the question.
Any objections to calling the question? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. This is a bylaws change. ADM 1216 as amended and requires a 2/3 to pass. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes with 2/3. Next is ADM 1216, Sunil. C, 1216C.
This motion arose out of a strong feeling on the part of the scholastic community that unless something were done, it could severely impact the participation, the numbers at national scholastic events, especially the super nationals coming up. I'm going to read the motion because it's not in your delegates call. Is it on the screen? Yes. Okay. This was presented at the membership meeting. It says, when taking entries for all national scholastic chess tournaments with under categories, the USCF will require players to disclose whether they have one or more ratings in other over-the-board rating systems. The USCF may use this rating information, possibly adjusted according to formulae to be determined by the ratings committee, to determine section eligibility. Such adjusted ratings will not be published on wall charts or used for pairings. This policy will take effect immediately and will be in effect for the 2013 Super Nationals and all future USCF national scholastic tournaments that have under sections. This was presented at the membership meeting. There was extensive discussion. There were 3 negative votes and 3 abstentions, and it received strong support. The rationale is attached down below. It's simply that we have, let me just read this and then say a few words. There are areas of the country in which many scholastic tournaments are being held that are not submitted to the USCF for rating. As a result, some players come to the national scholastic tournaments with ratings that do not reflect their current playing strength. In order to ensure fair competition, we need to be able to use all available information about these players' true playing strength. Now understand that what we are trying to do is to collect information on the players, a standard that is actually the norm for adult tournaments which give out significant prizes in under sections, simply to protect the players in the section. The intent is to use this information for placement purposes only, not for pairing or other tournament-related activity. Now, it was pointed out, in our fairness, at the rules at the membership committee meeting, that a provision exists in the current rule book that gives the tournament director the discretion to assign ratings to a player based on his knowledge of that player's playing strength. The problem is that if that procedure is followed, that assigned rating will then have to be used for tournament purposes, including pairing and prizes. It was felt that by the majority of the co-sponsors here and I was negligent in not reading it, but there were so many that I guess you could just read them off the screen. It was, I beg your pardon? Oh, it's not up there. Oh, I don't see that. Okay. Well, I think in all fairness, I should read this. It's co-sponsored by Tom Brownstone, Nevada, Myron Lieberman, Arizona, Rachel Lieberman, Arizona, Harold Winston, Illinois, Stephen Shutt, Pennsylvania, Dwayne Barber, Southern California, Russell Harwood, Texas, Roger Gottschall, Iowa, Polly Wright, New York, Beatrice Marinello, New York, Tim Redmond, Texas, James Stalin, Texas, Michael Atkins, Virginia, Mike Neatman, Wisconsin, Gary Gaffey, Texas, and Bill Deutschberg, New York. Thank you for co-sponsoring. Basically the idea of doing this is so that we don't have to give undue recognition to other ratings, but simply to use information for the protection of players in the tournament.
Ken?
Rule 28D of the official rules of chess allow a tournament director to assign ratings to unrated players. Rule 28E of the official rules of chess allow a tournament director to assign a rating higher, not lower, but higher than a published rating to a rated player for reasonable cause. This motion is unnecessary. The use of a rating to deny a player access to a section, but then the use of the USCF rating rather than the assigned rating for pairing purposes smacks of being arbitrary and capricious. And I am concerned that this rule would in fact give the impression of being arbitrarily and capriciously applied.
Okay, there are a lot of issues here. The big issue is we're trying to run a national rating system, and there are some areas in the country, we happen to be in one of them at the moment, that are choosing to run seemingly competitive systems which cause many, many players to not participate in the USCF rating system. For example, I recently lived in a state that runs its own scholastic rating system and has a database of approximately 4,000 scholastic players, less than 10% of whom are USCF members and have USCF ratings. So the big issue is we're trying to run this national rating system, and we have some parts of the country that seem to be not interested in participating in our national rating system, which brings us to the next issue. We have a lot of kids coming to the national scholastics that have been playing very actively in chess tournaments, but have not had their USCF rating change in quite a long time, because the tournaments that they've been actively participating in have not been submitted to the USCF for rating. It's been pointed out by Ken and by others that the USCF could do more or less what we're saying in this motion that we should do, but the fact is we haven't been doing it except for 1 year we gave it a try, and in the year that we gave it a try, nobody knew that we're doing it. In fact, I was the chair of the Scholastic Council in the year that we gave it a try, and I didn't know until a few weeks before the tournament that we were doing it, so I'm pretty sure that the parents and the coaches didn't know that we were doing it. By passing this motion, we are telling the world right now that for Supernationals, this is what we intend to do. And I think we need to do it, and the simple fact that the rule book allows us to do something similar is not really good enough. We need to tell the world that this is what we're going to do, and we need to tell them so in plenty of time to prepare for Supernationals, where 5,000 kids will be showing up, and they want to know what the rules are going to be in advance, and they don't want to be surprised to discover that they're not allowed to play in the section that their USCF rating suggests they're allowed to play in. I think it's important that we do this in the open, in public, publish it, and just say what we're going to do.
Madam Chairman, I move that debate be limited to 2 minutes per person.
Yeah, we're going to start timing your comments, and so you have 2 minutes. Richard?
Richard Kempy, Northern California. I am perfectly fine with the first part of this motion. The part I don't quite agree with or get is why you don't want to use the adjusted rating for pairing purposes. That is, if you determine a player who's registered at under 800, for example, is really a 1200 player, why not do what we normally do in all kinds of other tournaments, which is assign that player a 1200 rating, and use that for both pairing and assignment of prizes?